have a teacher that they remember well? Somebody who motivated you to be the best that you could be? Well, my most memorable teacher, the one who probably shaped me the most, was my high school history teacher, Mrs. M. But Mrs. M doesn't bring up warm, fuzzy feelings when I think of her. You see, Mrs. M told me in my senior year that the colleges to which I was applying were well above my abilities. Then, when I committed to my top choice school, that it was much too good of a school and I'd never actually graduate. And when I came back on fall break of my freshman year, and I went back to my high school to visit some of my old teachers and coaches, because there were actually people there who weren't killing the spirits of young people, but I ran into Mrs. M in the hallway, and she said, "I knew you'd be back. I assume you're here to get your transcript so that you can transfer." Yeah, she was a peach. So, but, you know, I have a PhD, so I've had many teachers over the years, and most of them were truly remarkable people who really believed in me and helped me to overcome the doubt that Mrs. M placed in my mind. But the thing is, I don't actually think of those experiences or recall them in so much detail as I do these 3 interactions with Mrs. M. So the reason why I think she actually shaped me so much was because when she uttered those words of doubt and disbelief, my parents responded to me with 2 options. I still think of these 2 things when I'm faced with doubt or skepticism to this day. But they said, "Well, Joe, are you going to prove her right and give up? Or are you going to prove her wrong and make her eat her words?" And as I struggled through first semester of freshman year, seeing grades I had never seen before on tests, like school had come to me pretty easy up to that point. But I thought I was going to prove her right. But making her eat her words just seemed like a much better option in my mind. So I leaned on my tremendous support system, and I turned my doubt into perseverance. I learned to problem solve. I pulled all-nighters and went to office hours. I watched videos of lectures for the classes that I didn't understand. And I'm talking VHS, not YouTube. I'm old, guys. So, but whatever it, took, I was willing to do. And at the end of my 4 challenging yet unbelievably amazing years, I sent Mrs. M an invitation to my graduation from the very school she told me I couldn't get into. True story. So currently I'm a psychologist just outside New York City, and I specialize in treating intense emotions and impulsive behaviors. My clients have experienced horrific life events like abuse, sexual assault, witnessing violence, or a significant loss. And they suffer from depression and anxiety that interfere with their ability to really engage in and enjoy their lives. And many of them turn to hurting themselves or others or to thoughts of suicide as a way to cope or to dull the emotional pain that they experience. I dare people every day to exceed expectations, to live one more day, to throw themselves in, to try something that terrifies them or that they really don't feel like doing, and to trust me that it will be worth it. And the thing is they're suffering and they really are struggling through. And my friends think, "Oh my gosh, how do you do this every day? Like, this is so depressing." But they're only thinking about the hopelessness and the struggles that I witness. I instead focus on the resilience and the strength that bring people to therapy week after week. The desire for something better and the willingness to push past all limits and the unfortunate stigma associated with asking for help. My job is to validate that their vision of normalcy, of happiness, of success, they're not just wild fantasies out of their reach, but rather completely achievable goals. And I give them the hope and the tools to get there. So a while back, a client comes in with paralyzing anxiety. He was an athlete with a pretty lofty goal, and the team was well on their way to achieving it. And then he had panic attacks, and he quit the sport entirely. He detailed all that anxiety had taken away from him and how it was like quicksand in his life, preventing him from doing very much of anything. And so After hearing all of this, I asked him, all right, what are you avoiding? Because that's what anxiety does. It makes us avoid. Now, he wasn't even watching the sport on TV, certainly wasn't playing it, was ignoring all kinds of calls and texts from friends and coaches and former teammates. And so I looked at him and said, okay, so are you ready to do all of those things with me? And he looked at me like, did you miss that whole part about my anxiety, the quicksand? I'm paying you for this? But he, after talking a little bit more, he summoned the courage to say, Dr. Fava, this is going to suck, but I'm in. Let's do it. My talk today is your syllabus for the University of Life. It's what to expect and what's expected of you in order to excel. Doubt and obstacles along the way, those are your tests. Failure here and there or fear, that doesn't mean you have to drop out. It doesn't mean you're not good enough. In fact, it's those who see failures and obstacles as an opportunity to grow and to learn that tend to be the most successful and the most satisfied. So in order to exceed expectations, you have to expect to fail or to be challenged and be ready to handle that. Okay, so how do we do this? Oops. First, it takes a vision. A dream of something big, something that you want to achieve. Be wild, be creative. If you're passionate about it, envision it. Doesn't matter whether that's to graduate college or to start your own business or to win a national championship. We need people who can think big and who can be resilient enough to make that happen, even when others suggest that it's too lofty of a goal. Imagine if Steve Jobs, the patron saint of millennials, said, I've got this amazing idea that, could completely transform the way the world interacts, communicates, learns, and plays. But I couldn't possibly pull that off, right? I mean, we need people who think big. We wouldn't have Facebook, Google, space exploration, airplanes, or vaccines for cancer if people were too afraid to think big. But once you envision it, stop fantasizing and start doing. Plan those steps needed to get to your goal and start taking those baby steps. You see, when we see a path to our goal and then progress towards that goal with various steps being achieved along the way, our dream is no longer a fantasy but an expectation. This is really important. So studies show that when we aspire big but have low expectations of actually achieving it, we're more depressed, dissatisfied, hopeless, regardless of whether or not we achieve our goal. So one study looked at this with high school students who aspired to go to college. Those who aspired to go to college but had very low expectations of getting in were much more depressed and had a variety of other conditions, mental health issues, even if they got into college. Meanwhile, those who aspired to go to college and fully expected to get in were much less depressed, had fewer issues, even if they didn't get in. So that's the power of positive thinking and productive action. We need to really kind of see our plan and be taking those steps so that we can, kind of envision what it's going to look like to get there. See, the thing is, I worked in prisons and with people on probation and parole for many years. And the people who envisioned something better, a way out of their current circumstances, these were often people who were working in like a skills program, a work-study program, culinary, something like that. So they were getting skills that could help them envision something better. They were much less depressed and much more productive than those who saw no hope for their future. So expectations of success, even if just glimmers of hope, because you can kind of see your plan, these are very powerful because they encourage us to take action rather than to just fantasize. Now, the thing is as you're kind of thinking of a big goal and taking steps towards that goal, right, there are big emotions that come along with that, right? So like excitement or fear or anxiety, right? So too often people think like having these big emotions are signs that they can't do something, right? But we don't get to handpick our emotions. It's not like a takeout order. I'll take happy and excited, but leave off that sadness and fear, right? I mean, emotions are normal, especially in certain circumstances. So if you kind of listen to anxiety and fear tell you you can't do something, well, then it could defeat you. But the thing is that anxiety is actually an incredibly useful emotion. It's what gets us to study for a test or practice before a big game or prepare for your TED Talk. So you could either let it get you down, or you could own it and say, okay, this is anxiety. Of course I'm nervous. What do I need? Who can help? You see, if you listen to the doubt and the fear and the anxiety and tell yourself, I can't do it, well, then your only way to proceed is to give up. But if you tell yourself, I feel anxious, well, then there are lots of ways to proceed. Take a nap, go for a walk, cry, call a friend, get a mentor. My personal favorite, talk to a good therapist. So, it's really important to kind of notice your emotions, be mindful of the struggles. They don't have to defeat you. They can instead suggest a course of action. So I had a long-term client who was struggling through this incredible injustice for many months. And she hadn't been sleeping, and she was really scared and overwhelmed. And she texted me, and she said, Doc, I'm broken. I can't do it anymore. Now, I knew this patient really well, and she's one of the most resilient people I have ever met. And so I responded, you are absolutely not broken. You're exhausted. Go take a nap. Call me later. We'll figure out the next step. Doubt, fear, exhaustion, anxiety, these are all normal experiences on your way to something big. Call it what it is and ask yourself, what do I need in this moment, so that you can channel your emotions in a way that's helpful rather than defeating. Okay, next is to find your grit. So just like intense emotions, obstacles or challenges along the way need to be taken as expected bumps in the road. There may be a major setback, or you may not succeed on your first try. You have a choice. Do you let it get you down, or do you say, okay, what went wrong? What do I need to do differently this time? Across multiple studies, people of all different ages, backgrounds, socioeconomic status, and in a variety of different challenging situations, the thing that sticks out as one of the best predictors of success is grit. Now, grit's the combination of passion and perseverance toward a long-term goal. It's being unwilling to accept defeat as an option, like the inventors of Formula 409. And for those of you who don't have 3 kids under the age of 4, Formula 409 is the household cleaner, a very popular one in my house. But the name Formula 409 represents the essence of grit. It meant not giving up when the scientist's first try didn't work, or 131st, or 312th, or 408th, but sticking with it 409 times until they got the right formula. That's grit. And finally, possibly most importantly, is to surround yourself with people who believe in you and who can support you through the struggles. You need to surround yourself with exceptional people because they know what it takes to persevere through difficult times. They push you to do more, to be more, and they model how to do that by doing it themselves. And while, it's important to kind of surround yourself with people who pull out your inner strength and courage, determination, it's equally important to unfriend or cut off those who increase your insecurity, your doubt, your fear, your hopelessness. Let me tell you a quick story about this. So at the age of 34, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. The doctor that diagnosed him told him all about the grueling treatment and how it would completely destroy his quality of life, and he told us we probably wouldn't have kids. We left that office completely hopeless and devastated. Now I'm into research, so my way of coping was to go home and to read everything there was to read about his cancer, the medications, the treatments, everything. I was looking for a shred of hope that things could be okay. And what I found was that the doctor who authored a lot of the research that I was reading was at a hospital right there in New York City. And I called and begged, and she agreed to an immediate appointment. She looked over his case, and she said, yeah, this isn't going to be fun, but you're going to be fine. You're going to go on to live a long, happy life. This is just going to be a blip in the radar. You want kids? Yeah, here's a referral. Talk to this person about that. And then she told my husband, with the biggest sweet tooth of anybody I know, to go home and eat lots of cookies and ice cream because the treatment would cause him to lose a lot of weight, so he should bulk up, right? We obviously went with doctor number 2, who not only believed in my husband's ability to conquer cancer, but in her own ability to help him have the life he imagined, and believed it was truly possible. If your doctor, lawyer, business partner, peers, therapists, coaches, if they don't believe in your vision, find people who do. Surround yourself with hope. My husband is almost 5 years cancer-free. And those kids we weren't supposed to have, they're doing great too. So, in summary, I had to come up with an acronym. I'm a psychologist. It's what we do. My colleagues would have thought I was a fraud if there wasn't an acronym in this somewhere. So, my 5 steps are: 1, set a realistic but a big goal for yourself. If you're passionate about it, envision it. Then, take action so that your aspirations can turn into expectations. Notice and evaluate your emotions along the way so that you can figure out what you need. And then expect obstacles and find your inner grit to persevere through them. And finally, surround yourself with people who can provide you with constructive criticism, but also consistent hope. And when your own tragedies hit, or when you're face to face with your own Mrs. M who says, "You can't do that," I dare you to say, "Just watch me." Thank you.